Hey, happy Monday. I hope that you are having a great day. If you're listening to this on Monday, I wanted to jump in just quickly before I jump into the episode because today is actually a really fun one. I recently ran a online consistent income accelerator. And on the last day, we did a little bonus day. I asked one of my past clients, Jitixa, who is an incredible virtual CFO, to come on and share her knowledge and wisdom around some of the mistakes, the money mistakes, the numbers mistakes that CEOs make as they start to scale. And it was such a great conversation that I decided I want to share it on the podcast. So throughout the session, I asked lots of great questions from Jitixa. She also shares her experience within the Elevate Mastermind. And also there's some really great questions from the audience. And I hope that you love this episode. And if you're listening to this the week of March 18th, I want to let you know that the doors to both my masterminds are currently open for the next intake. We get started on March 25th and the doors will close on March 20. So you don't have long, but you need to jump in right now if you are keen to join us for the next round. So both my masterminds are open, which means you can join Elevate Mastermind, which is a 4-month container to help you achieve consistent 10K months in your business, really working on your money, your sales, and your mindset. Or if you are further along in your journey and you have an established business and you would like to scale to multi-six figures and you would like to scale with one-to-many services, whether that's products, people, or programs or courses, then definitely check out the Next Level Mastermind. So you will find the details in the show notes. Jump in and check them out now. And if you have any questions, I'm running some right fit calls this week. So if you'd love to have a conversation to see if this is the right fit for you, then definitely reach out to me on Instagram at Christine_coach. And I cannot wait to support you. I hope you have an amazing week. Welcome to the Next Level Life podcast with Christine Corcoran. This podcast is made for the powerhouse businesswomen who are ready to ignite their fullest potential. This is where we will dive deep into the mindset breakthroughs and sprinkle in some kick up the butt motivation so you can scale your business with confidence and clarity. Whether you're craving more income, impact, or inspiration, this podcast will be your ultimate resource for all things next level. Listen in as we have authentic conversations with game-changing female entrepreneurs as we reveal the secrets on what it takes to rise and thrive. So go ahead, ignite your inner fire, and let's get you taking massive aligned action. Are you ready to elevate? Let's go. All right, so I've asked the beautiful Jitixa to come and join us today. So I want to dive into that first. You did too. We were actually just talking about that book that you, I gave you the
Rachel Rogers one. Rachel Rogers, Everyone Should Be a Millionaire. It's such a good read.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, love it.
So good. I think I've read it like 4 times now. It's great. As we dive in, so I've asked Jitixa to come and share with us a little bit about some of the money mistakes that business owners make as they start to scale and anything that we need to consider when it comes to scaling and it comes to your numbers, because she's a chief executive, a CEO in her own right, and she is also a CFO, a chief financial officer. And so, Jitixa, I'd love for you just to take a moment, firstly, just to introduce yourself, if you wouldn't mind, and then we will dive into some questions. And then I'll open up the floor too. So if you do have questions in relation to your business for this too, you're more than welcome to ask Jitixa as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much for inviting me on, Christine. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
So I'm Jitixa Raniga. I'm a virtual CFO, as Christine's just said. So I support CEOs across Australia. I focus on cash flow mostly, but we're kind of working towards the long-term profitability and then the business growth. So of course, we dive into the number side of things, but ultimately, I help my clients get that confidence and that clarity to make informed decisions with the data that I provide, with the support that I provide. And it just becomes less scary and we can start moving forward and start seeing that growth in the business.
Yeah, awesome. And so let's dive into some questions. So when it comes to supporting the types of businesses that you like to support, do you want to share maybe firstly who you like to support?
Yeah, so most of my clients are women. They have businesses that generate between $500,000 and $2 million revenue. They've got to that point where they're growing and they can't handle all of that, the number side of things themselves, and they need that bit more support. So, you know, most businesses have a bookkeeper or client accountants, but they're not getting that one-on-one personal month-by-month support in the business. So that's where I fit into the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, perfect.
So I've got, you know, service-based and e-com. So I haven't niched industry just yet.
Yeah. And so tell us about, like, obviously, I'd love for you to share actually, firstly, what a CFO is compared to an accountant, because I know a lot of people in different levels of business may not have heard of a CFO before, or might have heard of it, but don't know the difference between getting an accountant or a bookkeeper compared to a CFO.
Yeah, so obviously the accountant and bookkeeper are essential, support functions in any business. They kind of do the compliance side of things, the tax, the BAS, the income, the income tax side of things, all essential. They do provide some sort of reports, but then you're kind of left to it by yourself. There's not that support to really understand those numbers. What do they actually mean? What impact that's going to have on the business. And then there's what I do differently is I'm a little bit more future focused. So we do a lot of planning ahead, which many accountants don't necessarily do. It's more historical. A CFO tends to look, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years in the future and find out where the business is going to go. We can identify gaps and opportunities and work together as a business partner.
Yeah, love it. And so what's your favorite part about what you do?
Obviously, I love it when they start understanding the numbers, but it's the little things that I love when they say, oh, I was able to go to my daughter's sports game because she's not stressing about things anymore. They're able to confidently tell me, oh, I'm going to put in a flash sale this month and I know my margins are going to be X. Like I'm not having to do everything for them because I've given them so much confidence to say, I can do it myself. I know it's going to work. I
Love
love
it.
that.
Yeah, that's the best, isn't it? Like, I feel like that's my favorite thing about what I do with my clients is to have them get to the end of working with me and be like, I've got this.
Yeah.
I've bloody got this. Yeah, love it. So tell us a little bit about what you notice with the business owners that you work with. What do you notice are some of the mistakes that people make when it comes to scaling and what they need to pay attention to with their numbers?
This is not just my clients. I think this is generally what I find when I speak to a lot of people. Is regardless of the size, they could be, quite new or they could be in business for 10 years. This is very common to hear. I've got an accountant, I've got a bookkeeper, they sort the numbers out. They'll tell me if something's up. And so the business owner has kind of delegated this responsibility of knowing what the numbers are doing. I think that's one of the biggest ones, that not actually looking at the numbers. And I think part of that is because many people don't know what to look for.
Mm,
And if you've not been taught what to look for, you're not going to know where, if you're going into zero, for example, you might know that there's a profit and loss account. That's not great, but then what do you do with it? So I
mm,
think the mistake is not being curious about what information is already available, like it's at your fingertips. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes, not looking at that. And with that, they may just look at it, but it's that curiosity piece that's missing. So the more curious you are about the numbers, the more questions that will be raised, and you can start identifying patterns and trends. And I think that's another bit that's missing. Like they don't look at the bigger picture. It's like this is what's happened. End of.
yeah.
Have that conversation. That conversation needs to continue.
Oh, I love this so much because I'm such a big believer of that as well, where you've got to look for the patterns in your business. And I was talking to actually one of my ladies in Next Level Mastermind this morning about this. Like, she's noticing a really interesting pattern happening for the month of March. And I was like, great, let's go back. What happened last year at this time of the year, right? What's happened in the last 6 months? What's happened with your clientele? Like, we need to look at all that data to actually make really educated decisions to move forward, right? So it's one of those things that I feel like a lot of hesitation or a lot of doubt around knowing your numbers can come from so many different things, right? It could be mindset. It could be like having doubt and fear around it because you've never been taught, like if you've never educated yourself. And I think one of my favorite things to always tell people is to get your financial team in order, but also be open to asking questions and play, like be almost like be the beginner, be okay to be the beginner and be like, I know nothing, tell me everything. It's the first conversation I had with my accountant when I first started my business. Like, even though I understand business and I teach business, I said to her, I'm not an accountant. I don't have your brain inside my brain. So I want you just to tell me everything as if I know nothing. And then if I have questions, I can ask, but please don't assume that I know something and you just don't tell me. And because that set up our relationship so effectively right from the get-go that now, if she's actually quite excited to share more stuff with me. So I think that's one of the things too. Like you obviously want your clients to be confident with what they're looking at, but there has to come some type of element of like really getting to know their numbers and getting completely outsourcing it without being across it is disempowering, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of social media. I see a lot on social media about, oh, I hate numbers, it's scary, I don't know what to look at. And so people think it's fine to just continue to be scared. And I think just ask, just ask. Your accountant, your bookkeeper, people like me, we're all willing to like give you a little bit of a few hints. This is what you need to look for. And again, with social media, a lot of the things that you read so heavily focused on revenue. So there's people will just look at the revenue that your business is generating and they miss all the other exciting things that are in there. So, again, you can ask questions like, okay, yeah, I made $100,000 this year, but then where did all that money go? Like, ask your accountant, where's it going? What can I do to improve that? And I think those are the things that once you start scaling, they're the really important questions to start asking what's actually happening in my business.
Right? Because you don't want to get to the end of tax time and then be like, oh, look at all that profit I made, but I don't know where it is. My bank account's empty. So what are some of the opportunities you like to look for in a business?
I think most people expect me to say something. I'm just going to tell you to stop spending here, stop spending there. But it's not just about the stop spending. Obviously, if I see something like that's really, visible to me, it's like, it's too much. Yeah, I'm gonna say something. But it's the other things, like I'll notice if margins are quite low, I'll say, this is maybe your selling price isn't quite right. I also notice things like because I don't just look at the numbers, I look at other things as well. So if I find that my client needs to grow and scale, I'll kind of suggest where they need to be investing in their business as well. So like for me, for example, when I was working with you, I knew that my sales skills weren't that great. So I invested in that part of the business. I've just spoken to a client this morning and I know that she's got a big warehouse. She can't handle that all on her own. So we're looking at ways of investing and getting some support in that side of the business. So it's not just about what's happening on the P&L. There's other parts of the business that I can support with as well. So trying to find opportunities. If you get an ops manager on board, you're going to be able to have X amount of time to then go and sell your product. So those sorts of things are really important conversations to have.
That's it. It's actually making really empowered financial decisions, right? Like not just like hoping, wishing, and praying. It's like this is the plan and we're future focusing it. So we're building and scaling with a purpose, but also making sure that there's money to make. Like I'm not, yeah.
Exactly. And you don't want to burn out either. Like you've put so much effort into it and then you want to grow and you've got all these ideas, but then if you're just on your own, it's really hard to do that without burning out.
Yeah, absolutely. What's another thing that you notice within business owners that mistakes they make when they scale?
Yeah, winging it a bit. It's that again, one of my clients, she did so well. Oh my goodness, she's grown such an amazing business and has grown, but has kind of put these sales on and invested in certain things without really knowing what impact that's going to have in 6 months' time. I think the change in having the data behind her decisions is huge. So having someone on board to say, yes, that's a really good idea, but how have you considered this? It's just like, yeah, I find a lot of them, it's like, oh well, everyone else is offering 50% off, so I'm going to offer 50% off too. And it's like, well, can you afford
Can't.
it?
Yeah, sometimes you can't. I see that with Black Friday every year, and I'm like, please don't go and do some sale just because you see someone else doing a sale. Like, it actually could be really detrimental to your business. And if you're not profiting from it, like, sometimes it can be a marketing tactic, like you're actually bringing in cold people that have never known you. It's a brand new client to your business, and then it's worthwhile for longevity. But so other times it's kind of like, well, hang on a minute. If you're just doing a sale and you haven't looked at your numbers to see where it's even doable, you could be literally giving product away for free. Like, it's ridiculous.
It happens all the time. I've had clients in the past where when I've actually looked at what they're offering, it's like, yeah, so this whole range that you've got going on is loss making, like without even it doesn't cover any of your other costs. Like you're actually selling it for less than what it's worth for you to make.
Crazy. Oh my God. And how does work with a business like that? That's crazy.
Yeah, it happens
What
a
about
lot.
service-based businesses? Is there anything else that you notice with service-based that go a little bit wrong?
Yeah, again, pricing is a big one. I find a lot of women that I work for don't value themselves, which is something I probably do myself as well before I was working with you. But yeah, pricing, there's that real fear of charging a reasonable amount. So again, they'll see what's happening in the market, and then I'm just going to offer a little bit less than that. So, well, that's not going to get you to the goals that you want. So how are you going to pay yourself the 5,000 that you've said you want to pay when you're offering a service at, like, you know, £10 or something, $10, still doing pounds.
Yeah.
So, so pricing is a big one. And just minimizing that burn rate with service-based clients as well. A lot of people have that shiny object syndrome, so they'll sign up for like a multitude of different apps and subscriptions and stuff, and say, well, Hannah, like, what is it that you actually need in your business? What's actually going to move you forward? Can we condense these subscriptions into something that's a bit more inclusive of different, different functions? So we do a lot of that as well.
Yeah, beautiful. So maximizing the expenditures. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I know that you're using some terms that maybe is across some people like have never heard of before. So if there's any terms that Jitixa is using, please tell us in the chat so we can explain. Because she just used a term called the burn rate. This is actually something that I teach in Elevate.
Of course, it is an Elevate word, isn't it?
Yeah. So it won't make any sense to anyone that has never done Elevate, because it's the way that I look at our expenditures, our operational expenses in our business. And it's basically going, okay, so how much money does your business need to make in order to cover costs, right? To cover all your expenses, all your operational expenses. And then how do you factor yourself in a wage with that as well? And then how do you create a thrive rate so you can actually thrive? Because one of my biggest things is being conscious of not just focusing on surviving in your business. You've actually got to focus on thriving, because what number you choose in your head, if you're like, oh, I've just got to make this much to cover expenses, you literally will just stay at that level, right? Because you're focusing on the wrong thing. You've got to focus on thriving, not just surviving.
I was just talking to someone yesterday about that. It's just exactly that. They're like, oh, I've moved from 5K to 10K. I'm really nervous about increasing that again. It's like, well, why do you have to justify wanting to increase that? And she's like, oh, because it's enough right now. And I was like, well, why can't you have more? And I think I had the same conversation with you as well. It's like, we all do it. And just having someone to like bounce that out with is just so helpful.
Right. And question it, because how often we just limit ourselves and we think that that's just because, right? And without actually someone saying, well, but why? We just keep doing the same thing, right? And then you're like, well, actually I could. And you don't have to justify it. Like, let's stop justifying anything. If you want something, go for it, right? Completely legitimate reason. You don't have to explain it, justify it, nothing. Let's stop doing that as women. So I want to open the floor to any questions. Is there any other questions that you have for Jitixa? You can either pop it in the chat, or if you'd like to pop your mic on, you're more than welcome to ask as well. Is there any questions you have? Go for it, Hannah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Sorry, my neighbour's being super loud. I guess what your advice, so like I'm about a year and a half into business, and like obviously want to make six figures, multi six figures as well. So do you have like one thing that you wish you knew when you were early on, or when people are early on in their journey to know, or something that I should focus on, or when I'm looking at my numbers, like what I should be looking at, I guess? I don't have zero. That was one thing I have not invested in because I don't see the value in it for where I'm at the moment, because I'm all over my spreadsheets. But yeah, maybe I'm not tracking something. Obviously, I've got my expenses and income, and I'm looking at kind of the hours that I've worked and what my hourly rate would be based on that. I track all the metrics for my project, so I know, what I've charged versus what I worked, and then what my hourly rate kind of would be from that and the profit. But it's like, how do I, sorry, yeah, I'll leave it at what your advice would be.
Great question.
Of the journey.
It's such a great question, because yeah, it's the one that gets asked. Christine, you probably get this one all the time too, right? There's a few things that you said. So obviously you're tracking your income and your expenses, but I always suggest tracking your cash as well, because your cash and your all of that is very different things. Like having it all visible as well, like not having to have to search for it all the time, so it's regularly updated. But you said something else there about the hourly rate. One of the things I changed quite early on is I mean, I still offer hourly rate because it still provides a purpose, but changing my mindset to the transformation that I provide, so the value, the overall value that I provide has been the biggest. And I wish I did that so much earlier on. I started my business charging $40 an hour a couple of years ago, and it was just ridiculous.
And just paid tax.
I didn't pay myself. I couldn't pay myself. And the minute I started looking at like, if a client starts working with me for X amount of time, what transformation have I provided? And that change has been phenomenal. So rather than just looking at an hourly rate, because you can do hourly rate and what your capacity can be and how many chargeable hours you could actually potentially do in a week, you can do all that. But if you're not looking at the actual value of the work that you're providing, you're just not gonna get there. It's gonna take a lot longer. I think that was the biggest piece for me. Actually understanding the value that I provide and the transformation that my clients get. I know that's probably not a number crunching answer to your question. Christine, did you have like anything else to add?
Well, I agree. And I think it's getting away from the time versus money trap. It's one of the biggest things. And when we come from an employee headspace, like it's how we've tracked it in the past. Like, this is how much I used to get paid. Ideally, when you're in your business, you want to get paid more. Like, how do we factor that in? And I think there's two pieces there that I think you're trying to get across, Jitixa, is it's just the mindset of getting away tracking time versus money. But secondly, it's actually learning to communicate your value with your pricing too, right? So then you're not also communicating your value based on time, because people don't buy your time, they actually buy the outcome and result that you create.
And if you really did want to do it in a numerical way, like have some numbers to kind of back up your decision, work backwards. I always work backwards with a lot of my clients. Like, what is it that you want as the end result? Like, what do you want to be able to pay yourself? And so what does your business need to then bring in to take off tax, to take off like your super, take off GST? Like, what do you need to do to then still be able to pay yourself your goal amount? And that's another way you can do it, to rather than just saying, I'm going to charge $50 an hour and I've got 20 hours of chargeable time. Instead of doing it that way, you can work towards your own goal and then work backwards.
That'll improve though. Like, I think you'll get better at it the longer you're doing it, because we've got to be able to guesstimate when you quote the project in the beginning. And you get better at knowing how long things take you. And sometimes even giving yourself a buffer really, really helps. So go like in your head, you might be like, oh, I think it's going to take me 5 hours, but I'm actually going to quote 10 hours. And then you actually delight your clients by basically saying, well, actually it only took me 5, so I'm going to charge you less than what I previously quoted. Or you've covered yourself and you've actually charged yourself 10, right? So that way, you're also giving yourself the opportunity to not have to feel like you have to go back and go, I'm sorry, the scope has changed. I'm so sorry, it's going to cost you more. Like, you've got to put those boundaries in place early on, so that actually supports you to have those conversations and keep the communication lines open. Otherwise, it can feel really awkward as a business owner to be like, I'm sorry, but it took longer, especially in the space that you're in, right? It can blow out like crazy, right? Says in the same space, right? She would have that exact well. Yeah. So it can blow out. So got to be
totally done that. And I've literally just done that. I think one of the clients I signed up in February was I do a lot of project work because I'm a bit of a spreadsheet nerd. So I do a lot of process improvement for spreadsheets. And a lot of the projects I have are that. So they tell me what they want. And I've gotten better over the years to say, so this one in particular, I said, I think this will be around 10 hours. Obviously, if it's less than that, I'll let you know. Usually I'm about ballpark, to be honest, these days. So I've said 10 hours. And that includes, like, all the fix ups that I do afterwards as well. So I've made sure I've got a buffer for all of that extra time. Some of them want a lot of time for like run throughs on Zoom or whatnot. So I've included a buffer for that as well. And I'm a lot better at sticking to the scope. So if with all these tweaks, they say, oh no, I want this as well, I'm quick on it, a lot quicker on it now, saying that's not within our initial quote, so I'm going to add a couple of extra hours on top. And it was really scary doing that first, setting those boundaries, but it's gotten easier over time.
So good. Amazing. Such good questions. Any other questions for Jitixa? Feel free to pop them in the chat. So Jitixa and I have been working together for about 8 months now. And so I'd love to just to get for her to share a little bit of her experience of what it's been like to work with me in part of a mastermind. And then you are more than welcome to ask any questions about the mastermind as well. So to begin with, Jitixa, what made you join the mastermind to begin with?
I'd come to a point where I was just not, I wasn't moving forward. And as you know, I know my numbers like a lot. I look at numbers all the time. I thought I'd worked on my mindset a heap, but I just wasn't moving forward. I didn't know how to do it. So I kind of really sat down and thought, like, what are the areas that I need some support in? And it was the sales part that was my, like, the attraction piece. So that's where, like, I found Christine. I actually met Christine years ago, and I think I found her talking about sales. I was like, I think I need that support. And then I did the challenge with you. And I think even in that challenge, there was a few things that you said to me, like asking for permission, I think was one of the challenges. And I was like, if I can do this, change, a little change, and convert a client within a 3-day challenge, I need to be in the mastermind.
And you did it. It's so awesome that I remember like on the last day you like posted in the Facebook group going, well, you won't believe it. I put this into practice.
Yeah. So that was a big like confirmation. This is exactly what I need. I've never been taught sales. Like, I thought I knew enough, but I just never been taught any of those sales techniques. And I really needed that support.
Awesome. And so what's been your favorite part of being part of the mastermind?
Honestly, like, it's like says no, like the group have been phenomenal. Like, we've become such good friends. I know I should be saying it was the sales and the mindset and what's
No, you can say whatever you want.
the community. Oh my god, like, we still are in, so, like, we all talk to each other quite often. I saw says at the event the other day. The community is awesome. Like, there is so much talent within our own group that we can support each other with things that Says might be really good at, so she can help with that, or I might be able to offer some advice on something that I've experienced. So the community actually is probably the best part of the mastermind.
Amazing. And so what's been the biggest impact in regards to your business? How is it learning all the sales and working on your mindset and your money? How does that, I mean, even someone that works on their numbers, how has even the money aspect been for you?
The self-belief, the growth in my self-belief around the money that I can actually generate, the charge, like what I can charge for my services. Oh my goodness. I think I've changed my pricing 2 or 3 times just because I know that I provide a really good, valuable service. And that mindset piece around the money, and knowing that money is going to be there. I trust that money is always coming my way. Like, I had no expectation about that at all, and that's been such a big shift. I think my income's definitely grown, obviously, in that time, but my goals have changed. In fact, I changed my goals with you yesterday, and I know I can do it. And I didn't have that confidence. I have never been this confident about my business before, ever.
I love it. And I think you shared on one of the last group calls, you were like so proud because you were like, I haven't checked Seek in such a long time.
Yeah, I always used to have a little eye. It's like, oh, if a part-time role comes up, I'll apply for it. I just haven't even looked because my business has grown. I've got some amazing clients, and I'm attracting the really nice clients at the moment. I know my services are like on point. I've got some really great ideas for passive income coming my way working with you. Yeah, like, I am so excited about where my business is going to go to, and I know I'm going to hit that next goal. Like, I've hit this first one, I'm going to hit the next one.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, we're going to make that happen. That's amazing. Thank you. So happy for you to share this with everyone. I'd love for you to share, what about the, how did you go with like joining the group calls, and tell us a little bit about the background of like getting access in Slack, and how did you utilize all the resources?
So Slack was a new thing for me. I'd never used Slack before, but it's really, really easy. Like, I have the app on my phone as well. So on the go, I can kind of just communicate with everyone. It can be, I've tried to allocate certain times as well. I try and time block my day as well. So that's really easy to do with Slack. The Kajabi app as well has been really awesome because I've probably overshared that I do listen to some of the videos in the shower. So having like all the videos and the visualizations and all that kind of stuff on my phone and on the Kajabi app is so cool. And the calls, just having them in my diary. And I think I've pretty much been to all but one, I think. Even if I haven't done the work, because sometimes life gets busy and I've got, a lot of things going on, just being in the room and listening to everyone else's conversations and questions, like it's inspiring. I can turn the video off and say, okay, let me put my finger out. Like, it's just that accountability to say, well, they're doing it, I need to be doing it too.
Yeah, awesome. So good. And so what do you think has changed in your business since?
And again, I think I said this to you yesterday. I'm not my business. My business and me are very different things. So I need to treat my business like I would like a client's business, like treat it with a bit more respect. I'll do more planning with it, block my week out. It's just a more organized approach. And I think the things that we talk about on the calls and the way that you coach us has really helped me take that to my clients as well. So I think I serve my clients better as well because I'm treating it more professionally.
Oh, that's awesome. So good. So good to hear. Amazing. So what would you say to someone who's considering being part of the next round?
I think I've told everyone to be a part of the next round. I don't think there's anyone I've not told to be part of the next round. Like if you're serious about wanting to grow your business and just learning sales, and 100%, if you've worked on your mindset for 100 years, you will still have more things to work on. If you're serious about making changes and making some improvements, like there is no reason not to join.
Love it. Amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us today. I really, really appreciate it. It's been such a joy to support you every step of the way. You've been so much fun to work with. So I really appreciate it. And I just love seeing the breakthroughs. Like there's been so many different breakthroughs through different live calls where you're like, I think I'm not charging enough. Like there have been moments and I'm like, amazing. Like I just love to see that because I'm not the type of coach that's going to be like, you have to put your prices up. That has to come from you. And I've just loved that you've had that beautiful evolution along the journey. And so that's why you've done 2 rounds with us now, which has been amazing. So I really appreciate you sharing your experience. And I want to open up the floor. So if anyone has any questions, like almost act like I'm not here if you feel like you need to do that. You can more than welcome to ask anything from Jitixa. She's so open. So feel free if you want to pop your mic on or if you have any questions, you can pop in the chat.
I don't think I've said I'm actually joining Next Level Mastermind as well. Like I've done 2 rounds of Elevate. I've got some goals to hit and I am actually starting Next Level as well. So I've not done with Christine yet. She can't get rid of me yet.
I love to have that evolution because that's my goal for people, right? That they go through and like get all the foundations of their business sorted in Elevate, right? Feel super confident with sales, feel super confident with their money, and then be like, okay, now how are we going to scale it, right? Now we can take your beautiful ideas around new income streams and start putting those into practice and start hitting those massive next level, multi 6-figure goals, which is awesome.
And, I don't have a business, as in I don't have family that have had small businesses. I've been a corporate girl all my life. My family are all, factory workers, supermarket workers. Like I don't have that inherent like skill set. So being in the room like really, really helps. Like it's just invaluable. And I do go to networking events and stuff as well, but Christine really makes an effort to know your business inside out. I don't know how she does it, but for everyone that she works with, she like just gets it straight away. So that support is like, you just can't put your finger on how I can describe that support. It's really good.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you've been able to have that experience. That's what I really want to make for the Mastermind. So I really appreciate that. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Lovely for coming in and sharing that with us. If there's any other questions, I'll make sure that I pass them on to you. I've shared Jitixa's links. I forgot to add your Instagram. I'll pop your Instagram in the Facebook group as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to her as well. She's going to be more than happy to answer any questions you have. So really appreciate you coming in today and answering those questions. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening, and if you've found any value out of this episode, make sure you hit the follow button so you get access to the episodes as soon as they are live, and make sure you come hang out with me on Instagram. You can find me at ChristineCorcoran_coach. Have an incredible week.